start in a second. So we're just going to start and then we're just going to talk and have so much fun. I can't wait. I'm excited. So it's good. It's all good. It's coming. There we go. All right. Okay. So now in a second. So we're just going to start and then we're just going to talk and have so much fun. I can't wait. And then I have to fix that business because now I have a repeat. So I've got to tame that beast. Okay. All right. So here we are. Okay. So I'm so excited. Let me do one quick thing. And then here we go. All right. Okay. So I'm going to breathe and we're going to go. And so here we are. All right. So welcome to the show. I'm so happy you're here. You are going to be so happy you're here. I'm Kim Sorrelle. I write, I speak. I get to do so many fun things in life. I have grandkids. I've got a dog. I've got kids. That's what gave me the grandkids. I don't know, but so much fun. But one of my favorite thing to do is to meet people, and I get to meet incredible people. And today I have back with me Laura Carney, who is just an outstanding human being. You know how you meet people and you go, wow, they've accomplished a lot, or wow, that's really cool what they did. But when you can also say, wow, they're just a really amazing person, that's what makes it all the more special. And I am so happy she has said, yes, I'll do this again with you, Kim, and that we're becoming friends. I just love it. And so, Laura, welcome to the show.
Oh, wow. That's probably my best introduction anyone's ever given me. Thank you so much. I'm really happy to be back.
Yeah, well, I'm so happy to have you. You know, you were on the show before and we talked about you. We talked about a lot of things, but we didn't dive that deep really into the book. And My Father's List is such a great book that your brother found this list you didn't even know existed. And it was several years after your father passed away. And it was his bucket list. And so you decided you were going to take this project on of completing his bucket list for him, which is what a gift to give to your dad. It's so incredible. It's a legacy. I mean, that you're giving him more of a legacy than he probably could have ever imagined that he would have. And so it's just such a cool thing. So I want to talk about that. Talk about first, tell me about your dad.
Oh, my dad was, you know, it's funny in death, I think people become more epic and more legendary than they were when when they were alive. They were just, they were a regular human being because I almost called him a magical creature. And I thought, well, that's a little over the top. He was a really fun-loving person. I think that's probably the best phrase I could use to describe him. He was a really steadying force in my life, to the point where like I knew that he was the person I could go to with any problem and he would have the answer, that kind of a dad. But at the same time was just super fun and creative and freewheeling and free-spirited and never boring, that's for sure. He was a man of many words and songs and jokes. And, he was a salesman by trade. And so he could really just talk to anybody. And I think he just did not like lulls in conversation because, when you're with him, he was just always keeping the flow going of, it didn't really matter who you were, like he used the same friendliness, whether you were a waitress in a restaurant or you were his own children. So that was one thing I really learned from him. Just a big people person, but interesting, like he's kind of paradoxical because even though he was such a people person and I think most people knew him to be that, to be very entertaining, to always have something to say, to always have a joke to crack. But he also, I knew him to be actually a very introspective person. And when you were with him in his home, he could be more quiet. He was a really gifted writer, very creative. The few writings of his that I've read are very good. And just, a creative soul. Like I think I know he had many goals in his life of the creative things he hoped to accomplish. And one of the things that was closest to his heart was that he hoped to be a novelist. And that never fully came into fruition for him, but he did write and publish a book. He self-published a book in the 70s. And my husband actually is a book designer and he designed it. And now his book is available on Amazon for anybody who wants to get it straight from the horse's mouth, as my dad would say. The original Y Generation by Mick Carney is available on Amazon.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I love that. We'll make
Yeah.
sure we have the link to that because that's really cool that that
Yeah.
is now available. You're making a dream come true for him. So I
Yeah.
love, yeah. Did you know when he was alive? Did you know he was a writer? Were you reading
Yes.
stuff he was
Oh,
writing?
yes. He
Yeah.
talked about it all the time.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
had a copy of the book that is now on Amazon in the backseat of his car. And as a teenager hearing about that, it's like, oh my God, why can't you just be normal? You know, it's like embarrassing.
Yeah. Yeah. What dad wants to write a book that's just so wrong?
Yeah, and also he would talk about his ideas for TV pilots and movies, and he would talk about this like this was a normal thing to talk about. And in my circles, as this very sheltered suburban kid in Delaware, like that was not normal. It's like he's living in a fantasy world. That's the kind of thing, that attitude I had about it as a teenager for sure.
Yeah. So how has that shifted? Because there is certainly that, right? When you're a kid, you get embarrassed by things about your parents that are different.
Yeah.
So but then later on in life, things can shift. And the whole idea of a fantasy world, like that's changed a lot in my mind over the years. Like it was something, no, no, don't ever live in a fantasy world. But now I kind of like it.
Oh, my whole life is a fantasy. I mean, yeah, it's shifted a lot for for me. Like the things that happen in my life are unbelievable. Because I took on this project, because I gave myself permission to be the writer that I am, and speaker and teacher, and I've just gotten to have these experiences that teenage me never would have imagined were possible for my life. So yeah, I obviously do not feel that way at all anymore. And you just don't know. Like you don't know until you put yourself out there in the world. You don't know what's waiting for you. So
Mhm.
I think anybody who poo-poos things or says like, well, that's not real life, or that doesn't happen to people like me, like you're really, you're limiting yourself when you say things like that. It's a shame.
Yeah, 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 absolutely. Yeah, your words carry some weight.
Yeah.
And yeah, dream big. Dream
Bring
big.
on the fantasy,
Yeah,
I
exactly.
say.
Play, have fun. Great.
That's what it's all about.
Yeah. So you and your dad were close and
Yes.
uh and you thought you knew a whole lot about him. Uh
Hmm.
and this you certainly learned some things about your dad, but it had to be so hard to lose him. Like he was way too young. Like people don't are not supposed to die until they're in their 90s or 100 or something like. And as a woman, a daughter, it's like you want to have your dad for as many years as you can possibly have your dad.
Hmm.
So I imagine it was just devastating
Yeah.
to
It
lose him.
was devastating when he died. It's funny, I don't even use terms like lose him anymore because of how close I feel to him since taking on his bucket list for him. It's like anathema to me or something, to that word, to have lost him. Kim, I've never quite been able to figure out why. Like I don't say that to be like I'm correcting someone who says it. It's just it doesn't feel like the right word to me. Because I think that part of my, I have this like lack of fear of, well, not total lack of fear, but mostly lack of fear of death now. And it's because of him, because I feel that connection so strongly to his spirit now in everything that I do. Um, but when he died and I was under the illusion that that meant he was lost, that was what was really hard. Because I think a lot of times when somebody dies, especially in a tragic way, you just have this feeling of unfairness, almost like I was robbed of something or they were robbed of something. And oh my God, I can't believe people get killed. Like I thought death was just a thing where you're an old person and you're sick. But then it's like you have to wrap your head around, well, also, I guess children get sick and die. And like no one ever wants to think about that part. Like it's really not just old sick people who die. Like people die any number of ways. And sometimes the way they die is in a car crash with a teenager who was making a phone call. It's just a thing that happens. So, when I turned, I guess around the time I turned 35, that was when I discovered activism. And there was a while there where speaking in front of high school kids, running races to raise money, doing things to help activists and organizations that raised awareness of the way that my dad died. That I found that to be like the first expression of my grief that made sense to me. I think it's because it didn't feel helpless. There was like a helplessness to the way my dad died. And that was a thing that never sat right with me. And that was probably one of the most difficult parts, because here he was, this hero in my life who to me was the least helpless person. And yet that was the vibe around it. And like, it was like, there was just some, regardless of how I felt, in, you know, I'll call it the loss of connection with him in his body, like the loss of getting to have that relationship in his earthly form. I think that was the hardest part of it for me, is that, I couldn't make sense of it. It didn't feel like, it felt like something wasn't finished, and that would also sort of sometimes make me angry, because he used to say all the time that he was a person who was bad at finishing things.
Mm-hmm.
And so like that was part of his, not his identity, but like part of his blueprint in life or something, like an Achilles heel, like, oh my God, I really do try, but I just can't finish things. Like that was the thing. So for him to die in a way that also felt like that, where other people had to pick up the pieces, was tragically difficult for me. So yeah, I think there was an element to when we finally found his bucket list of, well, you know what, Dad, like, I'm going to help you finish things. Like, I know that you wanted to, and maybe you just needed a little assistance, So I think and ironically, like what I discovered is that I'm actually really good at finishing things. And it's funny because sometimes we think about our parents, I think, and we think about the things about them that they struggled with and worry that we are that way too, like we inherited it or something. So I definitely was like that. I used to think that I was bad at finishing things purely because I thought it was genetic or something. But actually, no, I'm actually very good at it. So
Yeah, good thing to recognize. That's good. Yeah, you just said so much and a few sentences.
I know. I'm sorry. That
No,
wasn't.
no, 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 no. It's all good. Everything you said was so good. But starting with the word loss, I
Yeah.
agree with that. And I don't know why I use the term, just because it's a term that's used, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, there should be another word. It's not loss. It's just
It's a
and it's
transition.
in transition. Exactly. Exactly. Uh, and there's other terms that are used when people are grieving that I always think, why are those, like, I don't know if anybody ever told you, like, well, you just need to get over it. And it's like,
Uh-huh.
no,
Yeah,
you don't get over it.
of
You're not
course.
gonna get over it. I mean, it's always, your dad will always be a part of you. Your dad will always be part of your life. So it's not something you get over. I picture it more as like, at first you're like under this weighted blanket and you cannot breathe and see sunlight, and it is just over you and
Right.
surrounding you, and little by little you stick out a hand and maybe an arm, but little by little you uh, are able to process it, deal with it in such a way that you can get on top of it,
Mhm.
but you don't get over it. But getting on top of it is a good place to be. And not getting over, I never want to get over the people that are not here physically for me to hug anymore. Like, I don't ever want to get over that. So loss, yeah, there's a better word that we need to start using, I guess, in that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the thing I want to emphasize is just that I've reached so much acceptance with it, um, almost bordering on gratitude, which sounds very strange to say. How could you ever possibly be grateful that someone died and I'm not? But I'm grateful for the legacy that he left, because it has changed my life. And it's like, because I'm so grateful for that, it makes it much more difficult for me to look at what happened as a sad thing, or a thing, not even just a sad thing, but rather a thing that wasn't supposed to happen. Because I think that that's a big part of it for people who've had a loved one die in something that feels like an accident. It's like, well, that's not how it's supposed to go. That wasn't supposed to. And I can never say that about my dad's death, that that wasn't supposed to happen, because based on what the world has allowed me to make of it and the things that have come from it, I can't think of it that way at all, because everything that I've done feels very meaningful and very fated and very like this was very much supposed to happen.
Mm.
So I don't, yeah, I just I've learned to be excited and anticipate all these omens and signs that he gives me regularly that he's here. I mean, I still see hearts all the time. And it's like, oh, hi, thanks. It's like I really have a code, like a shorthand with him. And because of that, it just, in some ways, I'm closer to him than even living people, some living people in my life who I love, because the communication is so constant.
Yeah, yeah,
And I
yeah,
really hope that I can help other people experience that as well.
yeah. I love that. That's really cool. That's really cool. And that you want to share it is really great. And I love that you are an advocate. Like you, there's no waste. Um, and that's probably not a great word, but often when somebody loses, there's that word again. When somebody passes away and they're, no longer there physically in your life, uh, that's it, kind of. You don't, a lot of people don't do anything with that, make something good or find something good that can come out of something tragic or something bad. And you did the opposite. You made so many good things come out of something that was tragic and so difficult. And advocacy was one of them. Like going and talking to teenagers and telling them, hey, this is for real. Like they tell you not to text and drive. They tell you not to be a distracted driver. It's this is real life, that I am somebody who it affected my life, it affected my whole family, which is so much more powerful than somebody who had no effect, just saying, by the way, don't be a distracted driver. So it's so cool that you did that. And then just your connection with your dad, and just that you wanted to do this for him, that you wanted to fulfill his dreams, and you wanted to be the completer when he said he wasn't one. I love all of it. I love all of it. And so yeah, so this list came. Your brother finds this list, and you go, I can do this. Like how long between finding the list and saying I'm going to do this? What was
Oh,
that?
and instantaneously, as soon as I saw it, and I thank you for saying that about my activism, and my advocacy and activism have changed a lot over time. And I think what it comes down to is, like what you just said about taking a bad thing and turning it into a good thing. Like one thing I like to talk about a lot is how we actually get to define that. Like I don't have to look at what happened in my life as a bad thing. And I don't have to necessarily, I mean, I guess the same could be said for what I'm doing now. Maybe there's some people who think what I'm doing is not a good thing, but essentially, like our definitions of events and things that happen in our lives are up to us. And there's a lot of agency in that when you're able to do that. So whereas I started out as an activist who was, I don't know, I guess the right word would be preventative. I was essentially saying, don't do this because if you do, then this will happen. Um, I shifted at one point where I stopped being that. And instead, I was now becoming someone who's like, do this because then this will happen. In
Mm,
other words, like reinforcing the positive. Because what I recognized is that, you know what, doing my dad's bucket list, we were traveling all over the country, often by car. I was flying over to Europe alone for some of the items. And I was jumping out of an airplane. I was, I was sailing by myself. I was surfing. Like I was doing a lot of things where you might imagine that a phone would be helpful to capture the moment, to photograph it, to video myself, whatever people do with phones. And I never did that. I do have pictures of things that happened, but someone else was taking the pictures because I wanted to be present in the moment of what it was that I was doing. And also because I don't do things distracted. So I sort of was promoting this idea of being alive again. and just being present for whatever it is that you're currently engaged in, which as I was doing this bucket list from about 2017 until 2022, that was a time in our culture where that was becoming less and less common, where people were actually just embracing being in the moment and being where they are and being alive. So there's that element of it. But also, one thing I started to gradually realize is that even the sheer act of celebrating a person being intentional, even doing that, which was now encouraging me to be more intentional with my life, even that is something that is positive reinforcement. Because what I started to realize is people who are very intentional with their lives actually value their lives more, because they're like, hey, I need to live because I'm working on something, like I'm getting a project done, or I'm so engaged, I'm so excited to be alive, to do this, that, or the other thing, that I need to live to do that. And that means I'm not going to take risks with my life on the road, and I'm also not going to take risks with other people's lives on the road. Like, that was the thing I gradually started to comprehend, that if a person is making risky decisions, I think it is a combination of either maybe there's someone who isn't super fulfilled right now in their lives, or maybe there's someone who just thinks, why not if I can get away with it? Like nothing, probably nothing's going to happen. And that right there is a person who doesn't understand the impact of their actions.
Mm.
So these are all of the things that this project gave me, so that I would never be any of those people, if that makes sense. So I started to become the kind of advocate who teaches by example, as opposed to teaching through lecturing. So
Mm.
I have actually found that I don't know if what the way I do it now is more effective, but it has certainly taken me down a different path with it that feels more right to me.
Yeah, well, it's a shift. It's a real mind shift, right?
Yes.
So yeah, I could see where absolutely it's going to be more effective when you reframe things that way. Then it's not about, oh, don't do this, or oh gosh, I'm going to try to get away with it kind of an attitude. It's more, no, how much do I value my life, and there's other ways to live besides on Facebook, or whatever. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, no,
I mean, it has affected everything, though. I mean, to the point where I used to be the kind of person who, if I were worried about something, or if something bad seemed to be happening, or if someone just made an unkind remark, like I would get stuck on it. And I would be like, oh, what if that happens again? Or what's going to come of this? And what is that person going to do? Like, my brain would get very stuck. Like, that was not my natural inclination, but an inclination I had picked up along the way. And now I'm a person who I might go there for a minute, but then immediately I'm like, oh, wait, no, but now I have this to do, and I have that to do, I have that to do, and I have all these positive things going on, that I'm going to choose to focus on those. So that's sort of like what it gave me as well. Because you really do, you have that agency. You don't have to live your life as though you're a helpless person.
I love that. Yeah, that alone, if that's all you ever said, that is so powerful. Because we control our own narrative, right? We get
Yes.
to be in touch, and which gives us so much freedom. It's the freest way to live, when you understand that you don't have to be under somebody else's narrative, but you
Yeah.
get to design your own, you get to create your own, and so that is so amazing and so good. So you get this list, and the first thing on the list, there was something on the list you couldn't do for him.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
He wanted to live a long, healthy, happy life until the year 2020. Yeah. And actually, as soon as I saw that, I think I had almost a feeling of like, ah, like, oh, now I know what he intended, because there's this feeling of, oh, he didn't have a will, and he died in a car crash, and who knows what he wanted for the end of his life. But now I have an answer for that. So that's kind of cool, because when we found it, it was still 2016. So that means I have 4 years left until the moment when he thought he was going to die. So I think that alone brought me a bit of peace. And then, of course, that ended up being the structure around which I started doing the bucket list, because it all really came to me very, very quickly. Like, oh, I need to do this for him. Maybe this will help with my activism, because it's going to show people like the full story of a human being. Clearly, it will be a book. I mean, my husband actually said out loud, Laura, this is your book. when I found the list. And also it's giving me a deadline. The very first item says this list was supposed to end in 2020. So it will. So
Mm.
it all like happened very, very fast.
Yeah. And how many things were on the list?
60, but he had done 5 of them in his lifetime, which he marked next to each one. And also there was one that he put an X next to, which was pay my dad back $1,000 plus interest,
Mm.
which meant that my grandfather had passed away before he was able to do that.
Mm. Mm. Interesting. So that's a lot. That's a lot of things on a list.
Yeah.
So that's a big undertaking. But how cool to have a list. Like I think that's another thing that is such a powerful thing is have dreams and have goals and dream big. It doesn't have to be they weren't all little things. There were some huge things on there, like president, whatever.
Yeah.
So there were big goals and big things. And I love it that your dad dreamt that way. That, you talked about fantasy, whatever. That's great to live in a place where you go, wow, people are people all over the world and I can do anything. I can try it. I can do it
Yeah.
and see what happens, right? Not be afraid, not live in a fear of what
Mhm.
could happen, but instead live in excitement of what could happen. I think is so cool. So when you started, did you start by looking over the list and going, well, this is the one I'll do first, or actually you found out that there were even some that you had already done and your brother had
Yes.
already done,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, I think that was a big part of what made me want to do it because it was so endearing in a way to realize, oh, he wanted to go to LA. Oh, I've been to LA. He wanted to have 5 songs recorded. Technically, my brother in his a cappella group in college did have 5 songs recorded. My brother had already gone skydiving. There were so many things on there. I think I counted a total of 13 that if you were to look at my life and my brother's life, we had actually done them just by coincidence, or maybe not because we're his kids. So that made me feel like I had a head start in a way. So I think that was a big part of it. But I mean, the other thing I think that's important to remember is my dad wrote that list when he was 29 years old. So that was very interesting as well, because I'm not looking at the list of a man in his 50s, who knows he's going to die in 4 years. I'm looking at the list of a man who just had his first child. And as opposed to deciding, oh, I just had a child, so now my goals in my life are over and I just need to be a parent and then that's that. Like that's not where his brain was when I was born. Instead, I think there was something about the fact that he now was a father that put his life into vivid color for him and made him more aware of his mortality. I don't know. I'll never really know that, but I've had people tell me that they thought that that's probably what happened.
Yeah. I could totally see that would be true. And I love it that he carried it with him.
Yes.
So that it wasn't just written, on a Google Doc, or something, but it was actually something that he carried with him, which even if you don't look at it every day, it's still a reminder that you have this list,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Well, but he didn't tell anybody about it. Nobody knew about it. He didn't show
Which is
anybody.
also kind of interesting, right?
What'd you say?
Which is also kind of interesting.
Well, my mom knew about it because she found it in a drawer when around the time that he wrote it. But I don't, from everything that I've heard, not one person who knew him knew about it, that he had this secret list he was secretly pursuing. And I don't recommend that people do that. When I help people do their bucket list now, I always tell them to share it with people. You don't have to share it with everybody, but at least share it with the people, with a small circle of people.
Yeah. And why do you tell people to do that?
Because I think it's important that I think it's important that you're out loud with your intentions.
Mm.
If that's something you really want to pursue, that you shouldn't have any shame or attachment to what if I can't do it? What will I be? I think a lot of people don't like sharing their dreams, like their really deepest dreams and goals in life. They don't like doing that because they're afraid, well, what if I tell people like this is what I really want? And then I'm vulnerable, because then they know what it is that I want. And then what if I don't get it? And what if I don't do it? And then I'm going to look like a failure to people. Like it's like this narrative that people concoct in their own heads. And I just don't advise doing that because you're putting too much weight on it. You're putting too much, like dreams are supposed to be enjoyable and fun. They're not supposed to feel like pressure. Like I tell people all the time, I plan on hiking the Camino for my 50th birthday. I plan on doing this, that, or the other thing. And maybe whatever my dream is sounds impossible to somebody else, or, I might, they just think, well, I don't know how you're going to make that happen. Who cares? I don't care. It's not like they don't hold some record of my life that says whether I'm a success or not, like that. Like whether you're a success or not, like what your outcome is does not matter. At least that's the way I look at things. Like whatever value and worth I have today is the same value and worth I was born with because I'm a child of God, and nothing can change that. That's how I look at my own life. So if I'm pursuing a goal, it's purely because I feel called to do it. Like there's something in my spirit that is lighting up and saying, this is what you need to do. And it's not so that I can have bragging rights or so that I can somehow seem like a more valuable person. It's so I can help other people. We're all here together and we're like this big orchestra and we all play different instruments. And each instrument that you play was designed the way it was designed because of the helpful part that you play in that orchestra. And that's just the way I look at life now. Like my goal is to help other people as much as humanly possible.
I love that. My gosh, that's so good. And yeah, you're right. Like years ago I read this interview with Maury Povich. Remember Maury Povich?
Yes.
And so I read this interview and it stuck with me so much because one of the things that he said in there, they were asking about his childhood, asking about growing up, and he said one of the things that he was taught was Povich's root for Povich's. And so I think he only had brother, if I remember correctly. I don't know that there was a sister, but whenever a brother or he did something, won a medal, whatever, got a great grade on a test, whatever it was, they all celebrated. The whole family celebrated that. There was never geez, he did it, or a jealousy or there's only so much of celebrating. And so if we celebrate him, we're not going to celebrate me. There was none of that. It was, they rooted for each other. And the whole world should be like that. And my family, we competed. We did the opposite of rooting. Although I was always so thrilled for my brothers. I think it's different. It was different for them, perhaps. But I was always so thrilled for my brothers when they got something. But there was definitely, we were raised in a very competitive atmosphere. My parents were very competitive people, and in business and in life and in everything, competition. And I like the idea of rooting. And I think that's one of the reasons people don't share dreams is they're afraid of what people think about their dream because they're not necessarily going to root them on in the dream. They might tear their dream apart or tell them how
stupid. Oh no, they will.
Right?
That's going to happen.
Yeah,
absolutely happens and will happen, and you just have to become impervious to it.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying, by the way, I'm not saying competition is bad, because competition tends to fuel excellence, and excellence is good. But for me personally, I'm a long distance runner, so my only competition is me from yesterday. That's the competition I engage in. I don't compete with anybody else. And it's interesting because I'm always being told by other writers that I'm the most generous author they know, because like I'll give other people opportunities if I have the chance to do that. But I love doing that. And the thing I think they don't understand is that my general philosophy is very similar to, have you ever read Dr. Joseph Murphy?
No.
He's really great. There's a book he wrote, I think in the 1920s, called The Power of Your Subconscious Mind. And I ever since I got that assigned that once as a copy editor, actually. So I didn't even like choose it myself, but I love when that happens, when like books just come to you. And I really absorbed it. And one of the things he used to teach a lot was how, our subconscious minds are all connected. It's like this one just amorphous blob, like this fog that we're all sort of living in. And we have to be careful about what we think, because what we think does affect what everybody else is experiencing, what everybody else is thinking. And the quality of who we are as a person is really just down to our spirit, but like our spirit is the same as everybody else's spirit. So what Dr. Joseph Murphy teaches is that if you were to wish harm on another soul, really you're wishing harm on yourself.
Mm.
Because they contain that, they might seem very different from you, but they contain the same stuff inside of them that you have inside of you. So, I mean, these days it's like, it just seems to me like people are very aggressive these days, and they'll say that person's a piece of garbage. Like people really say horrible things these days about one another. And I just wince when I hear it, because it's like, no, like you're saying that about yourself. Like you can't differentiate between yourself and another person to that level. You can look at that person as they've gone through a lot of pain to be how they are. Because if they're expressing themselves in a way that is hurtful to other people, that's why. That's the reason. So have compassion for them, but don't judge them as less than you. And don't wish harm on them, because all you're doing is you're attracting that to yourself. And you know what? Same goes for opportunities. The same goes for if you see someone who appears like, oh, they're making a lot of money and I'm not doing anything that's all that different from what they're doing. So then you suddenly get envious that, oh, they have all this money. And it's like, no, don't do that. You should be happy for them. Be happy that they're making all this money. Be happy that there's so many wonderful things in life coming their way, because that's you. Like if you actually get angry that someone seems more financially successful than you, all you're doing is you're telling the universe, oh, having money's bad.
Mm.
Having money is a reason to get angry, even though you don't think that that's what you're doing, because you think you're saying it. No, I just don't want that other person to have it. I still want me to have it. But we're all the same. Like that's how the energy works. So that is really the philosophy I use when it comes to helping other people, is that I see like the light that's in them and it's the same that's in me.
That's so good. Laura,
Yeah.
holy cow. That's a book, and that's so good and so
Oh,
powerful. And
thanks.
yeah, and I agree with you. Competition is great, but there can be unhealthy competition. But I love what you're saying, because it's so true. Like I think too often we think that there are buckets, and when the buckets are full, it means there's nothing left for you. Like if they
Mhm.
get all the money, then you're not going to get it. Or if they get all the accolades, you're not going to get it. Or if they get all
No,
the whatever it is, that means there's less for you somehow. And
that's scarcity. That's a
yeah,
scarcity mindset.
yeah, which is the opposite of truth.
Yeah.
When you see somebody that is successful and you're happy for them, yeah, it's a whole different energy that you give off, and so it's a whole different thing that you're going to be drawing in. And so why not just be happy for people, and why not just root for people and be excited for people?
Well, and what you're talking about is being limited by a human, like a human potential thing, like like a human mindset. Like you're looking at it as though we're finite people who can only do so much, when you can actually tap into your spirit, and then the potential is completely limitless, because there is a part of us that's divine that comes from God, and God is limitless. So
Mhm.
God can make anything happen at any time, any place. Like I've witnessed so many miracles happen in my own life that it's like, how could I not believe that? And then the weird thing too is people talk a lot about manifesting these days, which I think is this concept of like, all I have to do is wish hard enough. If I just put all of my energy on it every single day, then I will make it happen. And it's like every time someone talks about that, I'll just think to myself, you're taking the God out of it. Like you're not a master of your universe. Like you were created by something. I'm sorry, I don't mean to get too preachy, but
Yeah, no, it's good.
the way I look at my project to finish my dad's bucket list for him is not a thing where all of these miracles happened because I just wished hard enough for them. They happened because my belief system permitted them to happen. I was open enough for them to happen. I wasn't sending any thoughts out into the world that was like, I just can't believe that that could be true. So therefore that will not happen. Like I was saying, okay, whatever you want to bring me to help me with this, please do. And I just don't think people tend to live their lives that way very often. Instead, I think a lot of time, instead of focusing on something where we could be thriving, we're just trying to survive. So we're trying to control our environments as much as possible and prevent disaster and prevent things that feel like scarcity, or prevent things we're afraid of. And we don't understand that in doing that, and in thinking just as like a person, as a human, we're preventing ourselves from thinking as the spirit that we are. And when we're in spirit mode as opposed to human mode, you actually start to attract miracles because you're open to it. So I always, when people talk about manifesting, I try to, like, if I have the opportunity to say something about it, I bring that up, because it's like, no, there also is this thing called fate and co-creation, and we're all supposed to be living whatever life we're supposed to be living. You know, I really do believe that. Like, whatever I did with this bucket list and the things that happened that almost felt supernatural, the reason it was like that was because I was cooperating with something I was supposed to do, as opposed to, oh, I just really want this, so I'm going to make it happen. You know what I mean? Like, and,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
even the fact that I got a book deal and I published a book, and, you know, that's the thing that the authors in my life are very excited about. And how did you make that happen? And it's like, even that, like, that's a bonus. You know, it's wonderful. I have this platform to bring my story to the world, but it's not an outcome that made, as some people have said to me, all the hard work worth it. You know,
Mm,
it's like doing my dad's bucket list. Okay, I guess there's a world where that could be framed as hard work, but it was a joyous celebration of the person he was, and the soul that he continues to be, and the way that that influences my life. So it was more, I would say, probably in year 3 of doing that bucket list, that was where the greatest fulfillment was of doing it. The fact that I'm in the middle of this and I'm getting to live this way now, full of wonder and excitement every single day of my life. Like, that was the fulfillment zone, not, oh, here I am on the launch of my book.
yeah,
That
yeah,
makes,
yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah, for sure.
but
Yeah,
that's where people want to live, though, is the thing. Like, people think what they want is to seem successful, or be admired, or, you know, be financially sound, you know, or have this outcome that shows that they've lived a good life. That's what people think they want. But what they actually want is to have that juice, to be vital, to be living a life that they're genuinely so excited to wake up for every morning.
mm, yeah, that's so good. That is so good. And yeah, and it's so true. Like uh the goal the goal changes, right? When the goal changes from I'm going to do this thing and it's going to make me successful, to I'm going to do this thing because it brings me fulfillment and joy and excitement, it changes how everything happens. It changes how you approach things.
But even more so, even more than that, it's bringing you joy and fulfillment. It's bringing other people joy and fulfillment. You're acting in this concert with your own soul's fulfillment and the fulfillment of other souls around you. That's the sweet spot. That's where you want. Because there's so much, I think, envy that happens. You see someone who just won an Oscar, you know, or you see someone who's now a New York Times bestseller, or this person just got this position that you wish that you could have. And what people don't realize a lot of time is that's not, like, whoever that person is who just won that Oscar, like, that's not the entirety of their life that you're witnessing. You're witnessing one moment that's happening to them. They could be they could be estranged from a loved one at the same time. You know, they could have a horrible fatal illness at the same time. Like, we have so much complexity in our worlds. That I read somewhere the other day that I wish I could remember where this came from, but that if everybody could run around and throw all of their problems up in the air, that everybody would choose their own.
Mm,
You would not want to catch somebody else's, you know? So,
yeah, yeah, yeah. Interesting. Yeah, yeah. So true. So yeah, so here you go. And when you looked at the list, were there ones that you thought, oh man, I that's not one I really want to do?
yeah, I would say the golf one was not particularly appealing to me. I just thought golf was a sport for old white men, and, you know, what do I have to do with golf? And the thing that was interesting about it is I kind of I just scheduled them all out on my calendar one night, very intuitively, which was not the way I was used to scheduling things on a calendar. And I somehow chose to put golf in exactly the right spot, because I had no way of knowing when I started doing the project that when I tried to do the tennis list item, I would actually end up getting really injured. I hurt my foot on the tennis court and I ended up tearing a tendon, which was very surprising to me because I had played tennis my whole life. And that happened a lot too. The things I felt arrogant about and already good at actually were still unpredictable.
Mm.
So yeah, what ended up happening as a result of that was that I couldn't run anymore. And I stopped being this fit person that I had become. So by the time the golf item came up, I had only just started running again. I was pretty skinny and frail, and it was like golf was all I could handle because you don't really have to run in golf. You're just walking around a course. So
Yeah. Yeah.
and also at the same time, I think I had some aggression I needed to express. Like I had someone at one of my jobs, like a guy who was being kind of inappropriate with me. So there was just something about like swinging that golf club and hitting that ball that was like, oh, I feel so good, So it turned out to be something that was actually very opportunely timed.
Yeah. Yeah. That's cool that it worked out that way. And
Yeah.
that's the difference between following your intuition or listening to your intuition and just writing something down. Right.
Yeah. Well, and then the other thing that's really interesting about golf is like, have you ever played it?
Yes. Yeah. I
So
have
you
a
know
golf
that
course for 30 plus years. So yeah.
okay, so you know it's
Yeah.
a mental game.
Yes.
Yeah, I had no idea. I didn't know how much strategy is involved. And I didn't know how much of it is like energy based too.
Mm.
Like the energy that you bring to the golf course that day is going to affect the way that you play. So yeah, I was getting wisdom from that as well when I did it. Like, I mean, and so basically any item that I thought I wasn't going to enjoy or wasn't really for me, there was always a multitude of things that it felt like I was absorbing what my dad got out of it.
Mm.
So because I was open to that and I wanted to do that, I ended up actually getting things that I needed from it as well.
Yeah. Yeah. It's cool how God works that way. Right. Yeah. That's pretty cool.
Well,
So
and
you
you
talked
gave me
about,
motivation, yeah.
yeah. And so you talked about miracles happening along the way. Can you tell me about some things that you've seen?
Oh gosh, yeah. I mean, so many, if I ever needed money for things, going to the Super Bowl was not cheap. Whatever various things I needed to raise money for, somehow it would come through. I would get the jobs I needed that enabled me to do that. As long as I was patient about it and had faith that those things would arrive. I had a lot of like just a lot of serendipitous things would happen. Like when we went down to Georgia to talk to President Carter, we ended up at the hotel at exactly the right moment when his biographer was showing up,
Mm.
so that we could talk to his biographer for like 3 hours, and then later that man put in a good word for us. So I ended up getting to have a conversation with president, because the list item said talk with the president. It wasn't like see him, be in the same place as him, shake his hand. It was talk with him. And we were told in multiple ways by different people he doesn't do that. Like he'll give a Sunday school lesson, but he's not going to have a conversation with you. Don't take up his time. The man was 93 years old. um, but I had enough social cues from the man we had met that weekend to make me believe that if I were to say a couple of words to him, that he would speak back to me. So that was very opportune that happened. When we went to go check off surf in the Pacific Ocean, the surfing was the thing I was not particularly good at. I think partly because my upper body strength wasn't great at the time. So the whole popping up thing was a little difficult for me. So I did manage to pop up on the board only for like 2 or 3 seconds before I wiped out. But I was like, that's okay, it counts. I still did it. But as
Yeah.
part of my research for that, I watched the movie Point Break, which I don't know if you're familiar with Point Break, but it's like a big Keanu Reeves, Patrick Swayze movie. I had never watched it, even though my brothers were obsessed with it, partly because like they ruined it for me because they were always quoting from it all the time. And I was like, well, I don't really need to watch that movie. I feel like I've seen it because I know what they say in it. And then I finally actually watched it as like my husband insisted. He's like, you need to watch this just so I could have, because I was always developing an appreciation of whatever the activity was. Um, so I watched that movie. Then I finally successfully got on the board. And then that night we went out to dinner and Keanu Reeves was in our restaurant,
Wow. Wow. Oh,
who
that's
is the star of that movie. And let's see, what are some of the other things that happened? Oh, so one of the items was own a black tux. And I spent weeks and weeks, maybe even months, searching for tuxedos. Like, what tuxedo am I going to wear? How is it going to look? Am I going to look stupid? This is going to look enormous on me, probably, because I was trying to decide, should it be a man's tuxedo? Because my dad wanted a man's tuxedo. Really just couldn't find one anywhere. And then I had an old friend from college reach out to me on Instagram and said he really wanted to help me with a list item. And that happened a lot. Like I at some point made a rule for myself. I'm not going to ask anybody to help me. Like if I receive help, it needs to be a person who has come along and offered it. Because I was gradually beginning to realize that when someone helped with a list item, it changed them. Like it changed their lives. And I didn't want to like put that on anybody. So someone asked if they could help, and I found out they were a photographer. So I said, well, maybe you're supposed to help with this tuxedo item. And like the list item says own a black tux. So you'll actually really help me own it by taking these glamorous photos of me. But it just started to become an issue. I did not know where this tuxedo was going to come from that I was going to wear. And he was even like, do you want me to go to the mall with you? And like, maybe I could photograph the process of you finding this tuxedo. One day I finally let the search go. I went out of my apartment to go get some coffee. I walked downstairs. I have a boutique right in front of my building. I turn the corner, I look in the window of the boutique, and there's a woman's tuxedo in the window. And I opened the door and I said, excuse me, is that a woman's tuxedo? And she says, yes, it is. And I said, what size is it? And she says that the top was like the blazer was a size 4 and the pants were a size 6. And it was the only one she had left because this was right after New Year's. So I guess it had been a popular New Year's outfit. And it was exactly my size. The only ones she had left were exactly my size. And I was just like, I'll be back. Put it aside for me. It happened right below my house. Like the whole time that's where it was. And that was also comical that it was right there under my nose the entire time. So whenever things like that would happen, and they also felt comical, I knew that was my dad. Like he's like, here you go. And he's trying to teach me something, which is stop pushing. Stop pushing so hard for things to happen. Just receive them and they will come. And also they will come at the right time. That's another big part of it. You have to be patient and have it. Because usually if we really are hoping for something and we decide, well, I'm going to stop forcing this, I'm going to receive it, we want to receive it tomorrow. And it might not happen tomorrow. And we have to understand that if there are things going on in our lives that feel difficult, and I could actually benefit from this advice right now, honestly, things in my own life currently, but usually it's because you're being prepared. Because the dream is so big that you have to be a certain person in order to do it. And you're not that person yet, if that makes sense.
Oh, it makes so much sense. It makes so much sense. Yeah. Yeah. I totally get that. Yeah. It's in my own life. I'm so getting it because, you can have things that like I know what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah.
I know what I'm supposed to do. Like I know that I'm supposed to do this really big thing. And for a long time, it just felt like, well, how and why? Why isn't it coming? Why isn't it coming? Why isn't it coming? And when I finally let go of it and said, I'm gonna keep working and I'm gonna keep doing, but I'm gonna be just free from the outcome, just divorce myself from that. And when it happens because it will. That's when things started happening. That's when doors started opening, and that's when things started, you started going, holy cow, what is going on here? And so, yeah, there is something just incredible about being outside yourself, I guess, or realizing that that God is for you. And that I talk about rooting for somebody, your biggest fan. And so if you let go of yourself and let things happen, it's not only so much easier, so much freer, but it's also so much better than you could have imagined.
Well, and also, it's not even a thing of like, when is it coming? I think that's what we're taught.
Right.
Like, I remember when I was a little girl, I always loved the idea of like, Marilyn Monroe was discovered, or I can't remember, maybe it wasn't Marilyn Monroe, Rita Hayworth. Somebody was discovered in a drugstore in Hollywood, and it's like, I think a lot of us live our lives that way. Like, when am I going to be discovered? When will somebody see, oh, you're just so talented, and here's your ticket to being, rich and famous. And it's like, no, that's not at all how life actually works. And what actually happens is you follow your curiosity. You follow the things that you're passionate about, that you care about, and purely for the sake of wanting to know more about them and be involved in them, and do the thing that you're passionate about doing. And when you actually do that, you're taking action towards something that you don't even realize you're taking action towards. So the thing that is coming for you isn't even actually like some outside force that one day is like, okay, you're ready now, here's your opportunity. Like, it doesn't work that way at all. What actually happens is you're now becoming a person who's vibrating at a different energy, and therefore you're more aware. Like, you see the opportunities that are there actually every single day. Because if you weren't in process like that, if you weren't working on something or curious about something or engaged in something, instead you're just sitting back and waiting, you're not going to see them.
Mhm.
Like, they're showing up all the time. And really, I don't know if you find this to be true. I find it's just a series of opportunities. It's
Mhm.
like you do this, and then you do that, and then you do that, and then that shows up, then that shows up. And it's just, that's the way it works for me anyway. Like, it's not just one big thing. It's like each little thing along the way is leading to bigger and bigger things.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So true. So it's kind of both. It's like if you're sitting back and waiting, or if you're pushing and you're pushing in the wrong timing, or you're
Yeah.
pushing the wrong way. Either one of
Yes.
those can stop you from being aware of what you could really be aware of. And
But yeah. And also, the person who's pushing is a person who's insisting. Like, that's a person who's insisting that they know what it is that they're supposed to do. And
Mhm.
it can be nothing else. And if they just push hard enough, they're going to get there. And it's like, no, because if you do that, you're preventing yourself from experiencing the wonder of how much better and bigger it actually will be and
Mhm.
could be. So you really, you have to surrender it. You have to say, okay, God, I'm cooperating with you.
That's so good. That is so good, so powerful, and so true. And so take a breath, everybody. We just need to take a breath and and just be sometimes, instead of be what you
Well,
think you need to be.
I also think there's something to be said for getting really, really clear about what your intentions are and whatever it is that you're doing. So, like, I would make these notes for myself when I started doing my dad's bucket list, especially regarding the book. Like, what are my intentions with this? What would I like this to be? And I learned that from Oprah. She says all the time, like, know what you hope will happen when you start any endeavor,
Mm.
because whatever happens is going to be colored by that. So, I mean, that's how it is, that if somebody is doing something, out of anger, or they're doing something out of, wanting to prove someone wrong, or, whatever more negative reasons you could have to be doing anything. If they're not aware of it, that that's happening, it's going to show itself, like, regardless. So you might as well just write it down and figure it out, because if you don't have totally pure intentions of whatever it is that you're doing, you're not going to get totally pure results. So, and it's very helpful to do that, I think, also because what I find to be true is that anytime you pursue anything that's going to start attracting attention to you in your life, like what I experienced, you're also going to attract lots of people who are going to try to tell you why you're doing what you're doing, or label it as whatever they label it as. And they're not necessarily right. And I don't even mean just in a negative way. Like, even if someone thinks you're wonderful, like, they don't know the whole story, they don't know everything that's going on. So I think it's really important to do that, to get really clear with yourself, Why am I writing this book? What is my reason? What do I hope will happen with it? Because you have to understand what your goals are and be true to them, because then eventually other goals are going to be applied to you, and it can get very, very confusing, and you can start to doubt yourself and start to wonder, well, are they right about me? Is that really what I did? And if you don't have that written down somewhere, and memorize, you can get really lost.
Yeah, yeah, good point. That's a good point. So I'm curious, what was the last thing on your dad's bucket list that you did?
It was have 5 songs recorded.
Okay. And 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 what did it feel like when you finished? When you checked everything off on the list? Did it feel like you thought it would, or what was
I never, I don't think it's weird to say, I guess, as somebody who visualizes experiences to the level that I do. I mean, I really visualized that meeting for that book deal so many times. I even bought the dress for it. And that's very helpful to whoever's listening to this. Like, get the outfit.
Mhm.
But I never did with the list. I never thought about how is this going to feel when it's over. And I think the reason for that is because um, part of me didn't want it to end. Part of me just felt like this is my new way of connecting with my dad. And if this takes forever, it takes forever. And at least I can still maintain that connection with him. But then there was this other part of me as I was getting near the end that really, really wanted it to end, that was really ready. And I think that was the part of me that was healing, because it was like it was shouting to me, like, we need to start focusing on other things now. Like, this chapter is over and it's time to close the book and move on to whatever we're going to do next. And it felt really good, I think, because it felt like I was just choosing that this time. It wasn't like someone had just died in a tragic way that was unexpected and life had chosen it for me. It was
Mm.
more, I'm now choosing this. So I guess that is the best answers. It felt like, I don't know, if I had any expectation or anticipation of what it would feel like. And I have to add another reason for that I didn't have that is because I wasn't sure I was going to be able to. Because there were some items that were so impossible, and there were items I took poetic license with. So I wasn't sure that it was actually going to ever be done. But once I decided, after I recorded that last song, my vocals for it, that this feels like this is done now. It felt like, the best way I can describe it is, it felt like I was resting. Like, I'm now able to rest, but I'm able to rest to such a degree that I feel as though I'm lying on the bed of the ocean. That was what the sensation was like to me. Like, I have so much peace that I'm just lying on the bed of the ocean. And I went to bed that night, but that was what it felt like. Like, that's where I am. And it's so weird. I had a dream when I was asleep that night about, I remember like my particularly vivid dreams, and this was 4 years ago. But I had this dream that, that like it was John Keats, the poet John Keats, like the Irish romantic poet.
Mhm.
And he was in a class with me or something. And it was like, people weren't sure who he was, but like, I knew who he was. And it was a very weird dream. And then I woke up and I realized, oh, that was my dad talking to me. Because, so, okay, so, and it was really poetic, because it wasn't even just like, I know that you finished my list. It was, I know about the book. Because at that point, I had also submitted my manuscript. And I wrote an epilogue right after I finished the list. So whatever things were left over in the month of December of 2022, they went into the epilogue. But the way I started the book, the very first part of the book is a quote, and it's a passage from Ode on a Grecian Urn by John Keats. And the reason I put it there is because my dad used to say it as his toast at weddings all the time. And he was so proud of this toast. And like that passage is like, truth is beauty, beauty is truth, that's all we know on earth, and all we need to know. And he used to brag about it all the time. Like, here's this beautiful thing I say when I give my toasts at weddings. And once I was old enough to be an English major, one day he was saying this, and he was, as he always said, he said, the passage from Yeats. And I was like, Dad, that's not Yeats, it's Keats. You know, John, we just learned that in class. You know,
Yep.
that's Ode on a Grecian urn. You've been calling it Yeats this whole time, and it was never Yeats. And he gave me this look when I said that, of like just complete and utter pride. You know, like he wasn't mad. He was actually really happy. Like, oh, my daughter is a writer, you know, and she knows this well enough that she can correct me now. So the fact that I had a dream about, I know that this person is John Keats, but nobody else knows. To me, that's so him. Don't you think that was so him, just communicating? I mean, I don't even I don't talk about that very much, that happened that night. But like even now, I'm wondering, like, if the reason I'm talking about it with you today is because I'm supposed to learn something. Like, what do you take from that dream? Like, what do you think that means?
Yeah, well, first of all, I remember my really vivid dreams too,
Yeah,
and
not
things
surprising.
that have happened, whatever. And there's always deep meaning, and there's always layered meaning, I feel like, and there's always meaning that 5 years from now is a little different than I saw it 5 years previous,
Oh,
whatever.
interesting. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So it could certainly evolve for you. But yeah, I totally see it as your dad. The whole Keats connection with the toast, and even what the toast says, uh, just is,
Beauty is truth, truth, beauty.
yeah, yeah. Which is, that is like a conclusion that you make after you've completed this list, right?
Yes, because
Like
it
something
was it
that
was
you
the truth.
yeah, because it was the truth. And so, yeah, yeah, I see it as definitely your dad, uh, and I love it that you're the only one that recognized him.
Well, and you know what's so funny too about that quote? It's the very first. It's in the prologue. You know, it's the very, or what? Not that prologue. What's it called? Epigraph. Very first part of my book. I often actually accidentally call it an epitaph, which is not the same thing. An epitaph is what you put like on a tombstone.
Yes.
But that don't. I think that's a Freudian slip. You know, because it's like, oh, it's about my dad's death, right?
Yeah.
Um, that quote is the very first thing I ever wrote in the book. It's the very first page. And yet somehow, multiple times now, it's ended up being the end of something.
Mm.
Like, for example, when I copy edited, we had the copy editing procedure with the book before it went to press. And like that was something that had an extra space in it, or a missing comma or something that nobody caught but me, until the very, very last minute. I noticed it. It's like, whoa, wow, people just breeze by this, I guess. And I'm a copy editor, so that's really weird that happened. When we did the audiobook, I sat in a booth for 4 days, and it was very emotional. Like when you get to narrate your own audiobook, that's what it's like. We thought we were completely done. And then suddenly my audio engineer says, oh no, we didn't do the quotes on the first, we didn't do the prologue, the epigraph, the first page. So that is now happening at the end.
Mm.
And I can't remember right now what the other incidents were, but there were other times where somehow that ended up being like at the end of something. And just a really, really quick story about my dad toasting things. um, we also served a wine at my wedding that he had put aside for that day, and it had been waiting for 38 years
Mm.
for us to drink it. And so I'm sure that he was going to use the John Keats toast at my wedding, but that was how his involvement was there at the wedding.
Mm.
And then when I started getting all of this crazy press for the book, there was this one day where it was very confusing with my publisher, because my publisher was like, I don't think we need to keep doing this. Like, we don't need to keep going on NBC Nightly News and the Washington Post and Tamron Hall, and that's eventually what led to my doing the CBS Sunday Morning thing. But it was all happening 6 months before the book came out, and it was a little bit nerve-wracking, because it's like, well, what if we do it all now, and then the book comes out, and then you won't have any, because we did it all way too early. So that was sort of the conversation that was happening. And then one day I got an email, and it was Drew Barrymore, and it was her producers. And I had to like make a decision, like, do I say no to Drew Barrymore, or do I say yes? And I'm sort of being guided to say no. But something in me is telling me I'm supposed to say yes to this. And it was really a conflict for me because I'm a good girl, you know, like I'm cooperative, I'm a people pleaser, but something in me is like, no, don't say no to this. Say yes, say yes. So I said yes without asking for permission from anybody. And suddenly my husband comes home, walks into the kitchen. He goes, "Are you making toast?" Because the toaster had turned on by itself. Like it did smell like smoke. And we looked at it and the thing was down. And like I hadn't even been in the kitchen for hours. Like nobody had touched it. And that had never happened before that. And I was like, oh, it's telling me that I'm toast because I just made this horrible decision. And then I turned around and I looked at my husband. I said, oh, wait, no, I'm not toast. I'm toasted.
Mm-hmm.
It was this thing, and other weird stuff has happened. Like one other incident recently, I can't remember exactly what the details were, but something else happened with that toaster where I think it just like flew the toast up into the air. You know, it's like they find these ways to communicate. And with my dad, for some reason, anytime it's a thing where it's like he's proud, it's like something involves that quote or some the feeling of he's toasting me,
Mm-hmm.
which is really cool.
It is so cool. Yeah, I love
Yeah.
that. Yeah, so cool. This has been so incredible. You are so incredible. And I love that you didn't just do it, that you didn't just do the things and check them off the list, but that you were so intentional about the way that you did them and that you didn't ask for help, but at the same
Take into
time
me. Yeah.
allowed people into your space. Like I think that's so cool. And how much wisdom you gained. Like it wasn't just doing things, it was learning from everything that you did and recognizing it.
Well, and I think what I learned is I can live that way all the time. You know, we can all live that. I essentially became childlike with what I was doing. I let teachers come in. I was open to new things. I believed that the universe was rooting for me and that people genuinely wanted to help me. And when we're kids, that is how we navigate the world.
Mhm.
It's just the whole idea of being an adult shut something down in people. And really, this is the thing I think is a really important message that I tell people a lot. Like, you are not in charge of everything, you know? Like, the life that you're living, it's not all up to you. You don't have to be that self-sufficient. You can participate in something, you can engage. That's why I love, you know, you and I have met through Stacey Lauren, and that's why I love her message of community so much, because it just community does wonderful things for our lives, and that's how we're supposed to be living.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Kudos to Stacey Lauren.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah. Yeah. And that is how we're supposed to be living. And yeah. And you say it in such a great way, such a because earlier when you were talking about fantasy, I was thinking, when you're a kid, it's all about fantasy.
Yeah.
But then it's kind of beat out of us in a
Hmm.
way. Like stop dreaming, stop daydreaming, stop, or you're not good at that. You draw a picture, oh, you can't go into art, or you write a story, you can't do that, you can't do this. And the fantasy becomes this harsh, what some people would call reality. And the fantasy gets stripped away from us. So when you can get to a point where you're back to that childlike belief of that, yes, the world's rooting for you, it's not against you, God is for you, that you can do things, you can have fun, that play is still a thing, that imagination is still a thing, that you can daydream, that you can draw whatever you want to draw, you can do the things that you want to do. It is such a wonderful place to be and such an incredible place to be. And I think that's one of the things you are so good at. And
Thank
you're
you.
changing lives because of that, because you talk about that. You talk about, hey, the world is different than you might think that it is. Like it doesn't have to be this in a box and this is the way it is. And you wear a suit every day and this is where you go every day. And this is how you think. And this is, what it's supposed to be. But it's this wide, huge expanse of everything and things that you don't even know you could do or things you can't even dream of right now. But you will someday. And I love it that you open people's minds to that. And it changes people, it changes things. So thanks for doing that.
Oh, thank you. And all I can think about when you say that is what it comes from is just capitalism. And we live in a world of objects. And somewhere along the way, the notion that every object has a financial value just infiltrated the way we see everything.
Mm.
So that even people are objects, and this object is better than that object.
Mm.
And what happened with my project was that suddenly I was not living in a world of objects anymore. I was living in a world of potential, things that could happen, things I could experience. I was getting to be in an experience every day for 6 years, as opposed to just looking at life as though I'm a voyeur and I'm looking at all of the objects and I'm trying to figure out my place in the objects. And now, oh, I don't even belong with those objects at all. Like I still have to eat, I have to sleep, I have to work, I have to make a living. But at the same time, I'm in this world that is like a wonderland where everything is for this goal of living out someone's dreams. So it's a totally different mindset that you have to develop in order to do that. So really, I think I'm a pretty practical person. Like it really came from that. Like I just have to develop the mindset required to do these things. But because of living that way, it just changed the way I look at everything now. So I actually have had a lot of discomfort with it. I'll be honest with you, trying to get back into regular life these past, I don't know, 3 years. It's been very hard for me because I can't leave the wonderland. Like I'm still there. So what I'm happy to hear you say that, because what I try to do now is I'm giving some of the medicine that I receive to other people.
Mhm.
And in that way, I don't ever have to fully leave the wonderland, because instead what I'm saying is, here, come join me.
Mhm.
Like you can live in this as well. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Ah, so good. So good. This has been great. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. How can people get in touch with you and how can they get your
um,
book?
my website is called bylauracarney.com, by, like, because I'm a journalist, so it's a byline. I think lauracarney.com was probably taken. And my Instagram is my father's list.
There you go. And so, yeah, and buy the book. The book is so fabulous. Like we touched the surface, I feel like, on so much of it, but
Mhm.
there's so much to it. So it's available where books are sold. You can go and buy. And I would say, don't just buy one for yourself. Send a gift to somebody. It's so easy to do. You don't have to go to the post office. You don't have to do anything. You plug in their address. It goes right to their house. So
I'll
go
grab both of
ahead. Okay. All right. Awesome. But yeah, think of people that this would be a great book for, because really this is a book that is great for everybody. And there it is. That's what it looks like. My Father's List by Laura Carney. And it's
Yeah, that's what
beautiful.
I'm told. It's for fathers, it's for daughters, it's for every age, really.
Yeah, it is. Makes a great gift. It makes a great just surprise to get in the mail. And it's wonderful read. So yeah, so get more than one, buy a bunch of them and spread the news
Thank you. That
and
means a
help
lot
them.
coming from you. Thank you, Kim.
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks again so much for being here. And thank you, everybody, for joining us today. And I just want to say that until we see each other again, I pray that you keep your heart open and you live your love loud. There we go. There's the episode. So I'm going to
Oh,
stop live streaming a second. As soon as I find out how.
I definitely had a first happen today.
You did?
Some point in the conversation, a little piece of snot flew out of my nose. And I hope it doesn't show up in your video.